Okay.
Let's get to the review, right?
Yeah, so that last segment was kind of heavy and we got a little emotional. Mostly I got emotional. But now we're going to kind of lighten the mood and talk about some black history.
Right. I guess I'll start off. All right. So in the first episode, I mentioned to you guys about my love for jazz music. So we're going to start this review off with a gentleman that resided here, was born and raised here in Birmingham. His name is Erskine Hawkins. He's a jazz trumpeter. Mr. Erskine Hawkins was born on July 26, 1914, right here in Birmingham, Alabama. Wow. Just a little history about him. His father died in France during World War I. After getting word of his father's death, his mother, along with his other siblings, moved in with his mother's relatives. And from there, he attended what they called the Tuggle Institute, which is also known as Tuggle Elementary now. It was a private school for African-American boys. And there, at the age of 6, he excelled in music and athletics. He played the drums, trombone, and saxophone. And he eventually concentrated his efforts on the trumpet. Now, I think my grandmother went to Tuggle. So I thought that was pretty interesting. To hear that name of that school. I don't think it's open now.
No, it's still around.
It's still around?
Still around.
Well, see, there you go. That's
awesome. It's in the Fountain Heights community.
Okay, there you go. And that's a lot of history there to know that the great Erskine Hawkins once attended Tuggle during those times. So after he graduated, he went to Industrial High School, which is also known as Parker High School. So all you Parker grads, you attended were a part of a school that Greatness was a part of. He was 16 when he graduated from high school, and he moved to Montgomery and attended State Teachers College, which is Alabama State University right now. He went on a tennis scholarship.
Wow, tennis.
Right. I know, it's crazy. That shows you how athletic he was, right? Mm-hmm. He eventually quit the team, and he went on. He did that because he made a decision to study music. And during that time at the Teachers College, he joined the college's band called the Collegians. So during that time, the Collegians was a very notorious band that traveled throughout the U.S. When they traveled, they would basically, raise money for the college. So they would get paid, and they would also give some of the funds would go to them, and also the other part of the funds would go to the school to fund because it was at HBCU. So in 1934, the Collegians gained fame when they toured the Northeast. After being heard, the band was invited to play at the Harlem Opera House and at the Brooklyn's Fox Folly. During the New York tour, along with some of his bandmates, he was given the opportunity to play professionally. That's where he stayed in New York, and he became a band leader. And he played with the late great Duke Ellington, Lionel Hampton, and Count Basie. So that is crazy that he was able to be in the company of such great musicians and such influential and revolutionary people during that period. So you're wondering what made Erskine Hawkins so famous, so popular? Well, he's mostly known for the song Tuxedo Junction. If any of you know about Tuxedo Junction, you know it's resided in the Fairfield line. So it's named after a streetcar intersection off the Fairfield line, and it's a center of nightlife during the 20s and the 50s in Birmingham. It was so popular and so lively, right? They compare the Tuxedo Junction to that of Harlem in New York.
Wow.
Right. They say it's live back there. What they say? It's lit. That's what the kids say?
Well, I guess they said that today. I think back then they would have used something else, right?
I wonder with a groovy? No, that's 60s.
Cool.
Maybe? Probably cool. All right, whatever. Since it's jazz, it's probably cool because, Miles Davis, that's the king of cool. But anyway, during his luxurious career, right, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from Alabama State University in 1947. In 1978, he was the first inductee of the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame. He was also given the Life Work Award for Performing Achievement by the Alabama Music Hall of Fame in 1989. And what's awesome is, since the mid-'80s, Mr. Hawkins' birthday is celebrated in July at the function in the Junction. I remember going to that and hearing about that as a youngster and loving jazz. Used to go out there. I think they still do it to this day. I haven't really followed it lately, but I think they still do it. But when the times when I was young and they had the function in the Junction, it was awesome. I mean, you had all types of musicians. You had great jazz music. You had blues. It was just a mini music festival, and they paid homage to Erskine Hawkins during that time. And there's also at the park, at the Erskine Hawkins Park, and that's named after him in his honor. That's actually an actual statue of him holding a trumpet out there at the park. So it's pretty awesome that that the city has done that for him. Mr. Hawkins played music until the 80s. He died in November 11, 1993, and he was 79 years old. He was laid to rest at the Elmwood Cemetery here in Birmingham. I remember hearing about Erskine Hawkins when I was in elementary school and middle school, and those are the times when I played music, and I loved, and still to this day love jazz. I love the trumpet, and it's just the instrument that I fell in love with. And he was one of the ones that I originally heard. Miles Davis, Wynton Marsalis, Terrence Blanchard, all those guys, Louis Armstrong. I just love the difficulty of the instrument and just how magical it can sound when you play it. And I was joking around with Lala not too long ago. I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna pick up the trumpet again. And she kind of looked at me and laughed, but yeah, you did. You did laugh. Always laughing at me because I have dreams and hopes and dreams. No, but seriously, it's something that I wouldn't mind picking up again, and just to have, as just kind of a gift to myself, and also to pay homage to the jazz musicians that paved the way, not just musically, but just creating opportunities for future black musicians as such. And you don't really hear much about music and entertainment, from folks here in Birmingham, or even in Alabama. And then when you do hear about them, it's like, okay, they're from Alabama and that's it, But it's awesome that the city of Birmingham, gave due diligence to Mr. Hawkins while he was alive, and even after he's passing by, doing the celebration and giving him the park named in his honor, because, he never forgot where he came from. Every year, even while he was in New York, even in New York when he was playing music, he still came back home and still, talked to his people, still tried to contribute, still taught music lessons to underprivileged kids and youngsters in the city. Just his way of giving back and giving recognition to the city. So, big ups to Mr. Hawkins.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know about the function in the Junction. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about the park with the statue. And I've lived here for most of my life, and I didn't know any of those things. But just goes to show you that we don't learn enough of our history.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've heard the name Erskine Hawkins. I'd heard about Tuxedo Junction. I've been in that area, and I've seen the plaque that they have on one of the buildings out there, but I didn't know any in-depth information. So it was just cool to learn about, like, somebody other than, the bigger names you hear, like Miles Davis and Duke Ellington. You know about those guys because they were, like, huge in New York, but it's really cool to learn about, folks that were instrumental to that period that were from our state.
Absolutely.
So I loved hearing about it. So it was really cool. What you look at me like that?
No, it's just I mean, we've talked about jazz, and I know that you're not the biggest jazz fan, but
I've never said. See, he's making things
I'm not
up.
making things up.
I've never said I wasn't a big jazz fan. I am a big jazz fan.
Okay. So, beg my pardon. We've had conversation about jazz, and I think she was shocked that I like jazz. I think that's what it was, because I remember talking to her a while ago, and I mentioned my love for jazz and the things that I enjoy about it, and she kind of gave me this look of, you?
I didn't.
Jazz?
No.
Really?
That never happened. He just be making stuff up. I just want to let y'all know.
I guess I'm in a parallel universe when this happens.
He makes stuff up. all the time. So when he tells certain stories, just take it with a grain of salt. Because he's making stuff up.
I can't believe you're doing this.
I can't believe you're doing it.
So I'm making this up.
So you're making up the fact that I said I didn't like jazz, which has never happened. That's A.
I'd say you're not a big jazz fan.
No, I've never said that. B, you're making up the fact that I seem surprised that you knew about jazz music. Because that also never happens. I just wanted to let y'all know. He just be making stuff up. No, you're making stuff up.
Okay, fair enough. Fine. Moving on to the next section, Lilac.
Okay, so the next person that we want to talk about is W.C. Handy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Get it all out.
I'm
so
done.
we can, talk about Mr. Handy and his accomplishments.
That's a bad man. Continue.
Okay.
Sorry. My bad, folks.
So, W.C. Handy, he is another Alabamian. He was born in Florence, Alabama. His father was a Methodist minister that disapproved of secular music. So, a thing you need to know about Nightshade and myself, we also grew up in the church. His father and grandfather are ministers. My dad is a minister, and so is my grandma, my uncles, and my auntie.
I got uncles.
So we grew up in the church. So the little rant that happened earlier. Don't think we haven't been in church all our lives, because we have. So anyway,
I'm gonna let you add out.
So. He received a teaching degree from Alabama A&M in Huntsville. Yeah, he actually lived most of his life in Huntsville. When he wasn't traveling around, during musical tours, he lived in Huntsville with his wife, which is pretty cool. Cool thing to know. He was deemed the godfather of blues with such hits as Memphis Blues, St. Louis Blues, and Beale Street Blues. And then just before he died, a movie was made about his life, starring another fellow Alabamian, Nat King Cole.
That's nuts.
And the name of the movie was St. Louis Blues, after the song.
I saw a clip of New St. Louis Blues, and it looked amazing. It had so many people. Eartha Kitt was in it. Who else?
So Eartha Kitt, Ruby D, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Cab Calloway.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in it. That's crazy.
Mahalia Jackson. There was a lot.
And that's heavy hitters, all of them.
Yeah, that was the way I learned about W.C. Handy. So the movie just happened to come on TV one night, and me and my sister were like, what movie is this, and why are all these famous people from back in the day in this one movie? Because we had watched Carmen Jones multiple times, and all the big heavy hitters were in that. Dorothy Dandridge, Pearl Bailey, and the main guy, Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte.
People, I suck with names, so I'll know your face before I know your name.
Yeah, so
I have Harry Belafonte's face all in my brain right now, but I could not think of his name.
Most black folks have seen Carmen Jones and have seen it multiple times.
Yes.
So we were used to watching that, and so when this came on, we were like, this is kind of like in the same vein of Carmen Jones, where you've got all these very talented people stacked in one film.
Right. And
Nat King Cole plays W.C. Handy in the movie, and all the singing and piano playing is him. Right. Which is phenomenal on its own.
He was a bad boy, man. Favorite Christmas album of all time is his album, by the way.
Yeah, nobody's touching Nat King Cole around Christmas, and you can fight me. Yeah. Well, we can fight about
it. Tag team championship.
But W.C. Handy, he accomplished so many things. He fought for his own publishings, and during the time, we all know the story about how Ray Charles got his publishings. Well, W.C. Handy was already in the publishing fight long before Ray Charles started. Because at the time, all jazz music was considered race music, and you can only play it in certain places, and you can only and you can only get it played through certain people, which those people were usually white, and they usually owned your publishings and made more money than you did off of it. And so he started and stopped his career several times, but through all that, he continued to compose music. And the sad thing is, like, near the end of his life, I think he started going deaf and blind, which is sad for someone who's a musician. But yeah, W.C. Handy, another phenomenal jazz music composer. Blues and jazz.
And just to mention blues, that's another genre that I love. You know, and if it wasn't for guys like W.C. Handy, you wouldn't have your B.B. Kings, you wouldn't have your Buddy Guys, you know, you wouldn't have those great musicians. I mean, hell, you wouldn't even have, what's his name, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
And those guys kind of led the way for, like, the Chicago sounds, like Muddy Waters and Wolfman.
Wolfman and Buddy Guy, he's Chicago sound, so Chicago sound for blues. And,
Etta James.
Etta James, and then you got B.B. King, he's Mississippi blues, and then you got Stevie Ray Vaughan's white musician. He's what they call Texas blues, or kind of like a rock/blues type sound, but it all stems from something, and and these individuals like W.C. Handy, like Erskine Hawkins, are the ones that kind of laid like a foundation for these styles of music that we hear today. Even a lot of stuff that's sampled, man. If you really pay close attention to it, it's if it wasn't for some of these guys and their music, their style of music, that a lot of these sounds wouldn't be here, so it's amazing how things can get lost along the way in regards to who is what, because it's been this thing where it's like, okay, when you're taught that it was this person that actually started, where it wasn't, and that's because you mentioned about the publishing, you mentioned about the rights of music. A lot of times music was stolen from other black artists and things of that such. So unfortunately, these gentlemen were during those times where they had to fight for their music. But it's awesome to know that Mr. W.C. Handy was able to, knew well enough to fight for the rights of his music and things of that such. So yeah, that's just a situation I guess we have to talk about later or not. But
and a lot of modern rock comes out of Southern blues and jazz, and the Rolling Stones. Come on,
Muddy Waters, man. They basically based their style off of Muddy Waters.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is that the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger definitely always credits him for where his sound comes from, which is appreciated.
Absolutely.
And I just hope that they made sure that they got properly compensated for that as well.
Right. For sure.
But shout out to the Rolling Stones and Mick Jagger, because I think Mick Jagger was a huge supporter of James Brown as well.
Yes.
And was instrumental in his autobiographical movie being made about his life with Chadwick Boseman.
Financing it and all
Financing it and being an executive producer.
Right.
So, we were talking about allyship earlier. That's a great example of allyship when it comes to the entertainment industry. Right. So, yeah.
And definitely meeting the people in the right places and making friends in the right places. And not being afraid to ask.
Right.
Okay. I think that leads us to our next segment.
All right. So, I'm going to let Nightshade take this away.
All right, we're gonna do Get Lifted, guys. All right, so give you a little information before I give you the quote. This individual, his name is Nathaniel Braden. He's a psychotherapist whose work consisted of the psychology of self-esteem. He also played a role in promoting the writer Ayn Rand's, Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism. Ayn Rand's she's responsible for the book Atlas Shrugs. Okay, so I just want to give you a little information about that person, just give you an idea what their stance is, where they come from, and kind of what their platform is per se. So the quote goes as this: "The first step towards change is awareness. The second step is acceptance. Nathaniel Brayton. Now, I have a little spiel that I want to hit you with. All right, so bear with me. Definitely after the comments. Definitely after this in the comments. Tell me how you feel about it. And this is, like I said, we want to know how you guys feel.
Yeah, whether you agree or disagree.
We definitely want to know how you feel. Okay, so bear with me. All right. The last show, along with this one, we've talked about the history of civil rights and the struggles that came with it. We also talked about the changes that have occurred since the civil rights movement. The unfortunate truth is that even after 50 years, we still have a long way to go. However, that leads me to the quote. 3 things stand out to me: change, awareness, and acceptance. Change happens whether we want it to or not, good or bad, but it's imperative that we change with the time. I don't mean conform to societal standards. I mean transcend them. Awareness. We have to be aware of what's going on in the world. It's time to stop using the excuse of media gives bad information or fake news. Mm-hmm. My friends, that is when our thirst for knowledge should come into play. We must educate ourselves on the world around us because we cannot evolve or transcend without it. Lastly, acceptance. And that's something that everyone wants, whether we want to admit it or not. I'm not here to say what you should or should not accept, but I am asking everyone to look at acceptance in regards to how it would affect you and your family if you are impacted by racism, homophobia, and transphobia, just to name a few. It's okay to have our disagreements. That's what makes us human. And in the same breath, I say we cannot forget that we are all human, regardless of sexual orientation, race, or belief systems. We can still love and respect each other and disagree. Here at Lack and Shade, we want to thank you for your time. We love you and we appreciate you for all the support. Let's go to work.
Yep. Like, share, subscribe. Ding.